Yeah, had a long conversation. Who's the fifth kid? And then will be allowed yeah, you never know that because we put them.
All right, it is 6 p.m. Welcome, everyone, to the April 28th Meadville Select Board meeting. Before going, Mike, would you care to read the quote?
Courage is the art of being the only one who knows you're scared to death. Harold Wilson.
Thank you very much. And before we get going, I'd like to open the podium for any non-agenda items for the citizen forum. And seeing no one in the audience, let's move along to the administrator's report.
Wrapping up on Green Acre Road, we have about 1 day with one of the contractors left with the bigger machine, and we'll be done. And then we anticipate in relatively early May that our paving contractor will be in to replace the cross culverts and pave those trenches back in, and then pave the road. Coming together. We're also out doing some cleanup on some roads this spring. We just basically patched as best we could to get through mud season. Now going back and doing some cleanup work and making it a little functional. So bear with us if you happen to live on a gravel road and haven't seen any attention as yet. The bigger news, Youngtown Road at Minnow Brook. Couple of larger culverts, roughly 42 inches in diameter, that we were in hopes to milk along for a couple more years prior to resurfacing the road, replace those as well. Developed a dip in the road last week. Re-examined those culverts and they have more signs of distress than we anticipated. I actually had Paul Brown, who's the road ranger for the main local road center at MDOT, come down, discuss some strategies with us about trying to make it last. The rains this weekend did us no favor. And we developed a hole in the road as of earlier today. Hi, Susan. And we have opened that hole up more in order to patch it better. So there's a gravel spot or surface in there now. Probably we'll pave that back in when we have somebody here to do some handwork for us. It will be a maintenance headache from now until we replace the pipe probably next year.
So which end of Youngtown Road is that on?
Do you know where Norm Carver lives?
Yes. Right back on. Oh,
Just
and there's two there,
there are two there.
side by side.
The outlets are probably 5 feet apart and the inlets are probably 12. One really picks up the ditch water coming from, I'll call it the Youngtown in end. The other carries the bulk of Minnow Brook itself.
That's not good.
No, it less than ideal to say the least. We're looking we will be looking to replace that with another Stream Smart installation.
That's what my next question was.
We don't have any choice.
Yeah.
In terms of what we need to do. We follow the little flow chart and
Yeah.
jackpot. Okay. I did reach out to her name escapes me at the moment, Sierra at MDOT. She's the person that does the stream crossing grant monies to see if somebody else decided they weren't going to do their project this year or if they had any extra monies. The answer was no, unfortunately. They are looking and hoping for another round of stream crossing grants, but probably won't come out until some point next year for subsequent years replacement. So this one's going to be on us. But just wanted to let you know that is going on, and that will be a headache.
Yep.
And we do have some other crossings on that road that aren't in streams that will also be replacing I mean, we were looking at resurfacing that road in 4 or 5 years, can't remember which. So it's a ways out. And the hope, dream, and aspiration, as I said, was to basically work our way down the road and replace them.
Question, David.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, maybe you said it and I missed it. What caused culverts to fail, do you know?
Age. They are, or were, I believe they were galvanized corrugated metal. They're definitely corrugated metal pipes.
Another rust.
And now the bottom of the one more towards the Youngtown Inn end of the road, but it's still a long ways from Youngtown Inn. That one took the bulk of the flow. It's set a little lower. And that's the one that's rusted out on the bottom. So I think what's happening is you can imagine, I mean, if you look from downstream, which we've looked at, the top looks perfect. The bottom, you can't tell because it's full of water most of the time. But we isolated it as much as we could and forced the water through one side and then the other to look. And the bottom of that has eroded, rusted away. And I suspect what happens every time we get a big rain event like we had this past weekend, the water comes up, takes a little bit more soil from around the pipe, carries it downstream, and then over time, enough of it gets washed away that it just collapses down.
Okay.
So
Unfortunate.
it is unfortunate. We patched it with bigger material at the bottom this time so that water can flow through it. And then as you get closer to the top, it gets smaller and finer. So the top is just gravel right now.
And DOT doesn't have any like emergency culvert replacement funds?
Not that anybody's volunteered for a local road. I'm sure they do if it's, someplace else, some state highway, but no. So that's kind of where we are. And that's all I'm going to report on, I guess.
Any other questions for David on the
Thank you.
administrator's reports?
Yeah, I've got another question. Dave, is the town affected in any way by recent FEMA grants being held up? Are those just like brick grants? Our cleanup operations, that doesn't fall under a grant.
It does not, but we did receive a couple weeks ago a notice that each of the FEMA reimbursement requests from the December and January storms were going to be, I can't remember the buzzwords, manually and individually reviewed on the federal level, which might slow down the process. We received a notice last week that previously obligated funds were no longer going to be subject to that individual review, and that should speed up the process of our reimbursement.
Okay.
I haven't seen the money.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Everyone all set? All right, great. Let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
All meetings are here at the town office unless announced otherwise. The planning board is scheduled to meet Wednesday, April 30th, 6 p.m. Lincolnville Central School Committee meets Monday, May 5th, 6 p.m. at the Lincolnville Central School. The Heart and Soul team is scheduled to meet Tuesday, May 6th, noon at the library. Conservation Commission scheduled to meet Thursday. That got moved. Conservation Commission is scheduled to meet Wednesday, May 7th at 4 p.m. here at the town office. Recreation Commission is scheduled to meet Monday, May 12th, 4 p.m. Select Board meets next on Monday, May 12th, 6 p.m. Simultaneously, the 5-town CSD budget meeting will be occurring Monday, May 12th, 7 p.m. at the Bisbee Theater at the Camden Rockport Middle School.
Okay, thank you very much. And are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share? Yes.
Was handed a notice today that there will be community gathering for a speaker hosted by the Tranquility Grange at the Lincolnville Historical Society Beach Schoolhouse Community Room on Wednesday, April 30th from 6 to 8. And Gene English, the former editor of the Mofka newspaper and a longtime local gardener, will share seed starting and seedling transplanting calendar, as well as some tips for starting seeds. So again, that's Wednesday, April 30th, 6 p.m. at the Beach Schoolhouse Community Room.
Yes, thank you very much. And moving along to the meeting minutes, the first set we have are from April 14th. And before we even get around to making a motion, I want to call out line 37 as not being seconded by Tarantino as she was absent. And then just a minor typo on the line 198.
Who seconded it?
You moved.
If I go grab my other minutes, I could tell you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Would you like me to go grab my
We might
tablet?
as well so that we can get them
Yep.
correct for the record.
And then motion, not voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the first one, not the second one. I didn't.
Motion.
Oh,
Wait a second. She was in here. And I should point out that we do have a public hearing at 6:30, so depending on how the flow of the agenda items go, we may need to just put that one on pause.
And I had one.
April 14th, Number 5.
5.
So Late made the first one, second by Ann, and Ann made the
Yeah.
second by Late. So I'm not quite sure which motion we were on, but
The first one of the two,
First one.
second by Tarantino.
okay.
yeah, it should be.
Okay. So having corrected those meeting minutes, I'll need a motion.
I move the board approve the amended minutes for April 14th, 2025 as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And we have a second set from the 22nd.
I move that the board approve the April 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And moving along, we have a draft resolution here in support of the preservation of the tax exemption for municipal bonds that we discussed on the 14th of April. And unless there's any objections or changes, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the resolution of the select board of the town of Lincolnville declaring support for the preservation of the federal tax exemption of municipal bonds, and that the resolution be furnished to all member of the congressional delegation.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And David, would you care to chat with us about the whys and wherefores of approving 2 new bank accounts?
Go on. The first is the school lunch monies, which we've always accounted for separately in terms of computer wise, but we've commingled the funds in with the remainder of the town's funds. We've been informed that any interest that accrues on federal monies for school lunch program are supposed to be credited to that account. And in order to do that, rather than set up some sort of proration thing, the finance director and I concluded it would be better to establish a separate account, just put all the money right in that account, and any interest that account accrues, all 15 cents for the course of the year would go into that account and be available in that account and make life easier. Hence the suggestion.
Okay. Any other questions for David on that?
He has enough lunch money to accrue interest? Sitting there that long?
15 cents?
Well, we get it, yeah, particularly now, a lot of money comes in because they're actually buying, well, we were buying everybody lunch. All the students were getting lunch paid for. And a lot of that money was flowing from the federal to the state to the town. So that we turned around and bought, ham sandwiches or whatever we buy, ham and bread. I'm not quite sure what the status of federal monies flowing to the state, flowing to the town are now, but we'll be set up well for the future. And back in the day when people used to buy milk at, 10 cents a pint or half pint and lunch was $2, that money went through that account too.
Mhm.
Showing your age, David. Lots for $2.
I don't know.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain the motion.
I move that the town treasurer be authorized to open a separate bank account for a school lunch program.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And then the second.
And the
little
other one, Gail put together a little memo, but when we first started accepting credit card payments here at the town office, very few people paid by credit card, particularly when we told them they were going to get charged a convenience fee of 2.5%. Over time, that's become more and more prevalent with people paying and not apparently minding paying an additional 2.5%. Plus, as you recall, this year we started a new online registration for moorings and harbor fees with Stripe. And the online tax payments seem to be increasing. And there's a lag. We get a report, but we don't get the money. It's not immediate. So when you go to do a cash up for the day and you don't have the money, but mind-boggling. So then when you do get the money, then you have to go back several days to match it up. And by that point, it's in a regular bank account. So the thought was we would have the online payments come to the new account, and then it would be easier to reconcile with what occurred 3 days earlier versus trying to find the days. That makes any sense whatsoever. And then once we've reconciled the two, the money would be moved from this account into our regular general ledger monies.
Yeah.
Just one question in general, how does the transfer of funds between accounts occur? How is that process managed?
Kayla goes like this.
Okay, so it's done all online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. If there are any further questions, I'll entertain a motion, please.
I move the town treasurer be authorized to open a separate bank account for the purpose of receiving online credit card payments for reconciliation before the funds are transferred to the town's primary bank account.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And as we're still waiting for 6:30 to tick around, I feel like the conversation about obtaining additional comprehensive plan review committee members may take more than 10 minutes. So we'll skip over that for now. And jump into the Wiley Brook Bridge replacement. David, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. So we've been notified by direct mail and as well as it in the 3-year work plan that the Maine Department of Transportation is planning on replacing the Wiley Brook Bridge. And for anybody that doesn't know, Wiley Brook Bridge is the one on Route 230, under Route 235 on the Hope side of Moody Mountain Road. They're looking to replace that bridge in 2027. They're doing planning and engineering now. They have a preliminary public meeting that gives some very basic information about the current bridge status and structure and the timeline that MDOT has that available online for anybody to look at. We have a link to that on town's website under announcements on the homepage. You can submit comments electronically. They detail what might be detour routes around the project, which will be long if you're not familiar with roads around here. So plan ahead.
It looked like, do we as the select board get any recommendation back to them as far as they show options as to how they might close the road or
Yeah,
detour us, and
Yeah.
nice if we could.
We certainly, we being the five of you or anybody else can either do it individually or you could do it as a board. They do outline different options for detour, or they kind of brush over it kind of easy about maybe putting something temporary up or doing half of it and then another half. And putting up some temporary traffic lights. If you thought that might be a better option for people, by all means, I'd encourage the board to say so. They are accepting comments through May 9th, which is pretty limited time window, at least initially.
Wow, as far off as that is, only.
Well, I think they're going to, based on their past practice, they'll have another round of public hearing or public information. But I think they'd like to get as many comments early on as possible, particularly if they're trying to budget for, if they're going to do it half and half or build a temporary bridge upstream or downstream of that, that will impact the project cost immensely. So.
Route 235 has become quite a commute route, especially with everything that's going on down on Route 1. And if anybody doesn't believe it, get out there between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning and between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. It's quite a commute route. Like a super highway actually, but
Just, to me, any option that maintains at least one lane of traffic
yeah,
during construction, be it a half and a half or a temporary bridge.
yeah.
The detour option just is. I mean, people are smart enough, they're gonna detour it, but if you live on that road, having that one-way traffic option is gonna be desirable.
Do we feel a letter from the select board in terms of what our preferences would be more effective?
I don't think that would hurt. And I'm with Steve. I think either a temporary or half a lane with a light or something to
Yeah, I agree.
maintain some sort of traffic movement through there. And I know at some point that's probably going to have to be shut down for them to do it right. But there's a lot of traffic up there on 235. And it's right there at the intersection of Moody Mountain.
Right.
It's public safety.
Yeah, yeah,
Only
it is.
criteria that goes into
There's a lot that goes with it.
We've got to maintain one-way traffic there.
So would we feel comfortable just to make that for initial deadline, a simple statement from the select board in the form of a letter saying that our preference would be to maintain at least one-way traffic
Yeah,
throughout,
I would think,
throughout the project?
I would think so.
No,
Maybe
I'm
reference public safety and
on board with that, except the only question I have is, will they accept the letter? Or does it have to be through the website portal? Do we have to, do we say they will?
Yeah, I would say we put it into the portal and send Mr. Gleason
Give
a
you both.
follow-up email and
Okay.
document in as many ways as we could.
As long as we know they're gonna get it.
And do we feel comfortable asking our town administrator to draft that and send it off?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I went through the whole package. That was the only concern I had,
Yep,
going through the whole package.
Yep.
they
Yep.
provided.
yep. Nice PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. David, do you want a motion to that effect or
Hmm,
is general consensus sufficient?
I'm okay with the consensus.
Okay. Fabulous. Anything else on that right now? All right, I guess we'll move along to agenda item number 11. Countersigning of the warrant and notice of election calling Five-Town CSD budget validation referendum. Would you care to give a brief explanation for those who may not be in the know of what we're doing here?
Sure. The Five-Town CSD, the high school, they'll be having their budget meeting on Monday, May 12th, 7 p.m. at the Bisbee Theater at the Camden Rockport Middle School. That is mirrors what a town meeting is. There are 24 articles that the voters of the 5 towns that are present will be able to consider. Basically, but besides electing moderator, it's all the questions regarding budget for the 5-town CSD. That warrant has been signed by the school district and has been posted. In addition to that, the 5-town CSD budget requires a budget validation referendum, which will be done on Tuesday, June 10th. From 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Lincolnville Central School and 4 other places for residents of other towns. That in order to hold the referendum election, the select board is required to countersign their warrant notice of election. Really a ministerial act. You don't have an awful lot of discretion or authority in it. So hopefully you'll approve that and sign that tonight. I will tell people that before the week's out, if the board approves all these warrants for the various meetings, we've got a webpage under construction that will be turned on our webpage right under announcements. There'll be town meeting information. People will be able to find budgets, be able to find warrants, be able to find eventually the town report will be there when that's done. Sample ballots, et cetera, and that will be updated as these things come into us. Progress.
Yeah. Any other questions on this for David? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move the board approve and countersign the warrant and notice of election calling 5-town community school district budget validation referendum to be conducted on June 10th, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And I think we can slide in consideration of the special town meeting warrant for May 19th, 2025 for the Lincolnville Central School budget meeting. Can you give a real brief synopsis?
I'll make it last 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so you'll be able to vote in time.
There you go.
The Lincolnville Central School Committee has prepared their budget for operating the pre-K 8 school for fiscal year 26 or July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026. That warrant contains 17 questions. It's a school budget for the coming year. We'll gather in the Walsh Common on Monday, May 19th at 6 p.m. to act on those articles. And then that in turn gets validated again on June 10th at polls.
Any questions on that?
Is there any way that we can request a copy of something other than just total numbers so that we can look at that?
Yep. We still have a draft of the budget. And I just would want to make sure that it matches up with this, so they didn't change anything from that draft. And that will be posted on our website. But if you want a paper copy of it, we can make that happen too.
That would be perfect.
Yes, Steve.
Do you know if there was any particular sentiment or items regarding the 2 people that did not vote in favor from the budget committee? on item number 13?
That's a good question.
I would encourage anybody that wants to know the sentiment to view the video. I was not in the room for the whole discussion, so I don't know, but it was not unanimous on a number of articles, but the majority of them recommended it.
Okay, any other further questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the special town meeting warrant for May 19th, 2025.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Nothing. All those in favor? Thank you very much. And it is 6:30 on the dot, and so we will jump back to agenda item number 8. Which is to open the floor for a public hearing for the consideration of the extension of major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance. And so having said that, the podium is open and available if anyone wishes to get up and speak. Seeing no one wanting to get up and speak. Sure, come on down. This is it? Yes, please speak into the microphone. Yep. And just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kai Wilkins. I live in Lincolnville and Youngtown Road, in the old Neller House. One of the considerations when we were hunting for a place to live 8 years ago to move to from Denver was the absence of these stores, because in general, they tend to be a blight on the community. They take more money than they give. If you have a local business and you're spending $1 there, 87 cents will stay in the town. The local community pays for children's ballet lessons, for school supplies, for mom to be able to get a glass of wine so she doesn't murder her children on Saturday night. God bless her. But if you go to a big box store and you spend $1, then 87 cents goes out. And given the history that these corporations have with labor violations and with their absence of paying taxes, I am very, very against them being able to come in and use our community as home base, especially since it can be statistically proven that once one of these comes in, Walmart, dollar store, whatever, the small local stores are driven out of business, at which point they close up shop, consolidate somewhere else, and then we were left with nothing. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, please.
Susan Silverio, on Proctor Road. To that point, I would say that this extension is valuable if it allows the land use committee to come up with a very strong ordinance for design standards. I know it's not understood by everyone. It's been used very effectively in many places in Maine, and there are strong design standard ordinances worked out. It's not as simple as putting in a strip where anything can happen. So I applaud the land use committee for doing the hard work of making sure that we have design standards in our town.
Thank you. And if no one else wishes to get up and speak from the public, I think it's worth noting that there has definitely been more than reasonable progress being made by the land use committee. They have continued to meet with the facilitator that we were working with, and once again recently with the planning board regarding draft amendments. And this extension really is to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, because our understanding is that they are very close, potentially the end of June, to present what they've been working on continuously. And so we're just wanting to make sure that we're not dropping any balls here and extending this moratorium so that they can really wrap it up and bring the project home. Anything else anyone wants to add?
No, because David, you don't have you don't have a copy of the charge in front of you, do you?
I do.
You do? Do you mind reading that off just so the public has an idea of what
Sure.
specifically we're talking about, I guess?
I say I do.
Well,
I do.
thanks.
What you've asked them to do?
Yeah.
You want me to read that charge? Elected chair, vice chair, secretary, submit minutes, timely fashion, work with a facilitator to A, explore real-world examples of similarly sized non-residential development projects to better understand the possible impacts such a development project might have on the town, its residents and taxpayers, and the environment. B, conduct a public forum to receive public input on concerns with large non-residential development projects. C, conduct a workshop with the planning board to solicit planning board input on the items that necessitated the moratorium ordinance and possible ordinance changes to address large non-residential development projects. D, draft proposed amendments to the town land use ordinances to address potential adverse health, safety effects, land use compatibility, increased phosphorus runoff, decreased water quality, and environmental degradation effects of major non-residential development projects as that term is defined in the moratorium ordinance. And 4, provide periodic but no less than bi-monthly updates on the committee's progress to the select board at a duly called select board meeting.
Thanks.
Thanks for asking. I'm with myself to do that.
And so at this point, for us to do our duty in this part of the relationship and coming to a conclusion, I will entertain a motion, please.
I move that the select board find that the problems giving rise to the need for the moratorium still exist, and reasonable progress is being made to alleviate the problems, that all of the provisions of the town of Lincolnville major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance are hereby extended for an additional 180 days.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And we very much look forward to what the land use committee is going to bring us soon. And getting back on track, we are going to get back to agenda item number 9, which is a continuing conversation regarding the process for obtaining additional comprehensive plan review committee members as part of our April 14th discussion, specifically the suggestion from AD of Midcoast Council of Governments suggesting adding members to the comprehensive plan review committee, specifically a member of the select board, land use committee member, and planning board member, as well as additional public members. And we kind of roughly talked about it. We were more focused on getting the business of securing that consultancy and, crossing all of those or checking all of those boxes. And so this is an opportunity for us to have that conversation and I guess specify if we want to go with those suggestions specifically. Yeah, and anything else, and we do have the chair from the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee here in the audience, as well as their recent meeting minutes in our packet. Yeah, so thoughts from the board.
Where are the recent meeting minutes?
I
didn't see those.
Materials here. Number B.
Oh,
letter B.
right. Thought I'd seen it somewhere.
I mean, I fully support the idea of having a select board member, a land use committee member, and a planning member. And so, I would say, can we specifically send a note to the land use committee and the planning board saying we'd like them to designate an individual at their next meeting? Does that make
I
sense?
feel we should.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
That of course leaves the public members.
yes.
Yeah, and last time did suggest that we include members of the public.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have had a couple of community interest forms, I think, come in.
Yeah, we had one before we even talked to Edie and after the last meeting. In order to try and start and get the ball rolling, I did post something to the Google group, which has generated several and a couple of phone calls with people that are kind of interested. What's it all about? So
It's good.
One of the things I had been, so I think is this step is like, who are we gonna put there as far as filling existing committee roles from the public perspective? I'd like to be able to look at, okay, who are our current ones? What were their community interest forms look like as far as what are they, almost like an interview process. What were they bringing to the table? And then looking at these additional ones so we can really try and make sure it's a full rounded out group.
Look at it from that lens of
Yeah.
diverse, sure, yeah. And then with regards to a select board member.
Well, if we have somebody with prior experience with comprehensive plan.
Someone who knew the ins and outs of the comprehensive.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind
If
of.
we had something.
Yeah.
Or to somebody.
If we were that
If
long.
we had, if we could choose between two somebodies,
I forgot.
which somebody.
I don't want to point fingers.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve, do you have?
I'm not opposed to being on that committee. I spent a lot of time way back.
Yeah,
I'm not opposed to it at all.
yeah, I think you have a more sort of process experience with
Mhm.
what we currently have for a comprehensive plan, so
Yeah.
if you'd be willing, I think that would be
Yeah.
great.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, so others at large, do we want to cap the number because, we're at 1, 2, 3, that'd be 10 and then plus X number of others. Do we want to cap it or do we want to take an opportunity to kind of look at the community interest forms that have come in and go from there?
I'd like to look at that.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want to invite the chair from the comp plan review committee up to offer
Please.
her thoughts for the committee? Do you mind?
Susan Silverio. So I was appointed to the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee 4 years ago. There's been 5 members. The last, some have terms have expired. Some people expressed shock that there was no consultant to do research, technical writing, and facilitation. So we did, as you know, took it upon ourselves to do the community engagement process with Community Heart and Soul. So that's been time well spent. But that has not included any of the current comprehensive plan review people. They've been soldiering on, doing what we could on our own. I think it's important to note, in the 4 years when we've taken it upon ourselves because we had no one to facilitate or guide us, that we looked at other towns. Standard practice seems to be that when a town decides to do a comprehensive plan, even if they have a planner on staff, they contract with a consultant to do the consulting for the comp plan. That was available to you in 1993, when there was regional, it was still mandated by the state and there was support for it. Without that, towns that take this up usually, number one, hire a consultant. Number two, appoint a town committee with maybe 12 members. That includes, of course, a select board member and other key people from committees. So, we could talk about carts and horses, but better late than never. Be happy to have more participate. At this point, it may look to somebody who's new to the committee that we are of a like mind, but they may not have seen 4 years of working on detail and nuance. And we have come up with what we are able to do, which is a number of drafts of chapters of the information that that was available to us. Some of this information is not available to us. That's going to come from the town office. The town administrator is going to be a very important resource in that process. Or else, a select board member, it needs to be able to draw upon that data, those numbers, those budgets, all that information. The value I see of new members is they can look at what we've already done and be a sounding board before we take it to the town. For someone to pop up and object to something, it would be a sounding board to, a devil's advocate to look at these things and say, okay, how is this going to land in our town? Is there anything we should consider? Should we phrase this differently? Mostly, as you know, a comp plan is not an ordinance. It's not a law. It doesn't require anything. It all can be ignored, as you well know. However, the language is important because it is the basis of all of our ordinances. It says in the preamble to the ordinances, if there's any question, you should consult the comp plan. Now, that doesn't usually happen, but that is the way in best practices in the ideal world it would work. So I think it's very important to take this thing very seriously and appoint people who can, number one, show up at meetings. Number two, read. We've got 245 pages there. We've got 6 or 7 chapters that we've drafted. Somebody needs to read those. Although, even if someone pops in to express their opinion, it will give us a chance to field those questions earlier rather than later when it comes to town review and town meetings. Is that clear?
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks. Any questions for Susan? No, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that at this time? Okay. And of course, we encourage anyone interested in being part of the ongoing process to reach out, grab a community interest form and submit it. Please. And thank you.
So I'll reach out to I just want to make sure I got my homework assignments
Yep.
right. So I'll reach out to the chairs of both the land use and the planning board and ask that they take it to their membership to see if somebody would be interested in serving additionally on the comprehensive plan committee.
Mhm.
Steve has volunteered or was appointed, or he wasn't really appointed.
He's graciously.
He's been told.
You're gonna put him on the list for you to consider at your next meeting. Do we need to do any additional staff wise? Or we need to do anything to assist in getting more people to commit to completing a community interest form? Or are you going to take all that on now, or just going to deal with whoever comes in the door?
Well, and also because we don't want this to drag on, right? So, I think we should set a deadline of, by this meeting, whatever community interest forms have come in to review so that the process can move forward and
Yep.
80 can do her onboarding.
Right. what I'd like to do is, and I've told some people that it wouldn't be at this meeting, but at a May meeting, but I'd also initially MCOG had set forth the kickoff in April. We told Katie last meeting it would be not April. But I'd like to get it on her schedule so that we can schedule all the people's schedules, because summer's going to be upon us and we want to get going.
We should be able to do this the May 12th.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I
so,
can attend that remotely.
great.
I was gonna suggest that we might want to come up with capping the number is a long term, but if we're gonna have a deadline, we should have, how many seats are we gonna be, do we want to fill? We're starting out with, now I've lost my
I
sheet
think
here.
a target of around 12 or 13.
I'm sorry?
To me, a target total of around 12 or 13.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking
Is
too, but I mean, it'd be
probably
nice
the
to
right
have
call.
that to go along with the deadline.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it may not hurt to do one more push, on the Google group or whatnot.
I'd encourage each of you to go to your friends and neighbors and say,
Absolutely.
hey, wouldn't you like to?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Do you have neighbors?
Nah, yeah, they will speak to me.
so, Mud, David?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna now jump back to agenda item number 13, and this is our consideration of our annual town meeting warrant for June 10th and 12th. And David, you wanna just give a brief explanation?
Sure.
We do have
On,
an additional article
Yep.
added in.
on June 10th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., the voters of the town of Lincolnville will be asked to consider 4 articles. The first is to elect a moderator, and then the second is all our elected positions, including select person, 5-town CSD board member, Lincolnville Central School Board member, and budget committee members. Then we have the article regarding the validation of the school budget. And then an article that you didn't see in the previous drafts, but somehow came back to light, that we need to have a question for the voters. Do they wish to continue with the budget validation process for another 3 years? Last time we considered that was in June of 2022. So those are the 4 questions, or 3 questions that will be determined by referendum ballot, and the first one to elect a moderator is done by secret ballot right there at the polls. From there, the articles are just what you've seen before, commencing with Article 5, talks about the budget for the municipal budget. The budget committee met last week and is recommended identical to what the select board recommended for all of Articles 6 through 17.
Which is great, thank you.
For anybody that might be tuning in at home, the select board's recommended budget is 2.39% higher than what was approved by the voters for the current fiscal year. Article 18 through 27 are kind of the housekeeping things, everything from monies for the snowmobile club, which that, I don't know if you've all have seen that article since you asked that it be amended, that it doesn't necessarily go to the Mountain Goats, it can go to any group or body that you deem in the best interest of the town, should they not exist. To alewives, to setting percentage for delinquent taxes, late payments percentage, to closing roads, to winter maintenance, disposing of tax property, or not tax property, town property, kind of all the housekeeping things that we routinely do.
Yep.
Is that short enough, sweet enough? I'm happy
Perfect.
to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions come up for anyone? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move the board approve and sign the annual town meeting warrant for June 10th and June 12th, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And June select board meeting schedule, as is habit tradition, because there's a lot to do for the 10th and the 12th. holding a warrant only meeting to consider payroll and treasurer warrants unless some emergency comes up that we absolutely have to deal with. Is that okay with everyone? And would 5 p.m. be all right?
Fine.
Okay, great. And Karen, you have an update for us.
I have nothing.
Mike, you have an update for us. Steve, do you have an update for us?
Well, the update is I will need to attend remotely for the next board meeting.
Okie dokie.
I do have an update. I wasn't here last week because I got overly enthusiastic at the Maine Resource Recovery Association conference and stayed there. But I felt like it was a really productive conference to attend. They're specific for our town. There were things related to the school lunch program, actually, that I was going to look into more with school people before bringing up to the wider group, because if they're not interested, what's the point? And some changes that could be coming down the pike as far as the kind of recycling that we're doing and recovery of resources that are currently going straight into the landfill. We have talked about them at some board meetings, and it was just really good to go to this conference and get a lot more context and hear about what's happening with that. And finally, Maine has been a leader in the country for, and I'm going to mess it up. It's EPR, which you think it seems like it's excessive packaging reform, but it's not, but it also is. It's the E and the P stand for something different, but what they are is specifically setting up statewide requirements for packaging that from anyone over a certain size selling product in the state. And we were one of the first states to approve the legislation. We are not one of the first states that's actually gotten to the point where it's getting rolled out. You may know more about this. We're like in 2027 or 2026. I think October of 2026 is when the first phase is supposed to come into operation in the state. It's, in a nutshell, it's kind of like when California adopted emission standards. Maine did something like this, and now much bigger states like California actually have also adopted it. They're probably the ones that are going to be leading on this initiative to cut what's going into our waste stream at the source, instead of consumers being expected to bear the burden and municipalities then bear the burden for what to do with stuff. So I can give you more information on it if you're interested. I can give you links to where to actually hear more about it.
Interesting.
You know, I just think of something I forgot.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is, tomorrow, there's going to be a public hearing up in Augusta, the Transportation Committee, 1 p.m. on all things related to ferries. And since we have a ferry terminal, there'll be a couple of bills having where the ferry in Islesboro is going to sleep, mainland or Islesboro. And the suitability of the Lincolnville terminal isn't on the table. So, I mean, that's not part of any proposed legislation. However, it might be in someone's interest to weigh in the public hearing on that. And if you want any information on how to do that, let me know. And if you need to do a call, we need to plan it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for that. And I have,
Sorry about the short notice, but it's gone out Friday.
no, that's good. Great. Good to know. And I have no update. So we'll move along to the treasurer and payroll warrants.
I move that the board approve and sign the treasurers and payroll warrants.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And is there any other business the board wishes to attend to?
Have our posted come down yet?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
South Compton Road, Route 1 is still there.
It wasn't as of middle of the afternoon today.
Okay, it was this morning.
It was, that one was inadvertently missed by the public facilities director. We had a phone call about that and he double checked and took it down today.
Great. If there's, yeah.
Did I miss something or the MDOT 3-year work plan that was in the agenda, non-agenda items? The section of road north of the beach is no longer in that work plan.
Yeah, or is that lumped in?
It's not in that work plan. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
That would be the one that we had interaction with Northport.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kept thinking, oh, I'm gonna see it somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't speak to DOT's work plan. I was kind of surprised by that myself.
but the different line, the way they called out the different lines were interesting this time around. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. So if there's nothing else, we need a final motion.
Move to adjourn.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Keep
You
your pen
have-
up.
Yeah, keep your pen up, please.